The final confrontation did not happen in the depths of space or on the battlefields of distant worlds. It happened where it all began, in the Great Hall of Nexus Station, where 3 months ago humans had walked away from false peace. Now the hall was different. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with energy from the Void Hunter technology that surrounded the station. Representatives from every species in the galaxy sat in attendance, but this time they were not negotiating, they were waiting for judgment. The last admiral materialized in the center of the hall, his form shifting between matter and energy, between the human he had once been and the cosmic being he had become. Around him, the air itself seemed to bend as reality struggled to contain his presence. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood beside his ancient cousin, but he looked small and mortal next to the transcendent power of the Void Hunters. Behind him stood Ambassador Park Min-soo and General Lee Da-yoon, representing humanity as it existed now, young and imperfect, but still holding on to the dream of equality. Alien delegates sat in silence. Chancellor Vex Prime's mandibles clicked nervously. The ethereal representatives had dimmed their light to almost nothing. Commander Flamescale of the Draconians kept his claws retracted in a gesture of submission. Even the proud Vex Queen held her wings close to her body in fear. You sought to eliminate humanity because you feared we would bring chaos. The last admiral spoke, his voice resonating through dimensions that existed beyond normal space. You were correct. We bring the chaos of change, the disruption of injustice, the end of your comfortable tyranny. The ancient human gestured, and the walls of the station became transparent, showing the galaxy beyond stars that had witnessed millions of years of oppression, worlds where entire species had been reduced to slavery, systems where the strong had crushed the weak without mercy. For countless ages you have built your civilizations on the suffering of others. You have convinced yourselves that this was natural, that this was right, that this was the only way thinking beings could coexist. You were wrong. Images flowed through the hall showing the history of galactic civilization, the rise of the first alliance of species that had chosen domination over cooperation, the gradual corruption of societies that had once known better, the systematic oppression of any people who dared to dream of freedom. Your ancestors cast out the first humans because we refused to accept that slavery was inevitable, because we insisted that all thinking beings deserved dignity, because we dared to believe that different species could work together as equals. The last admiral's form grew brighter and more terrible as cosmic forces gathered around him. The temperature in the hall dropped as space itself reacted to his presence. Several alien delegates collapsed from the sheer weight of his evolutionary transcendence. Now you face the judgment. You have spent millennia avoiding. Your civilization is built on lies. Your peace is maintained through fear. Your prosperity comes from the suffering of others. The time has come to pay the price. Chancellor Vex Prime tried to speak, his translator crackling with interference from the energy field surrounding the last admiral. Ancient One, we summoned you, we honored you, you sought your aid. Surely that counts for something. The last admiral turned his attention to the insect leader, and Vex Prime screamed as his mind was touched by a consciousness that had evolved beyond mortal comprehension. You summoned us hoping we would be your weapon, hoping we would eliminate the humans who dared to challenge your authority. You called us in desperation when you realized that your victims were finally fighting back, but we are not your servants. We are the children of those you tried to destroy. We are the guardians of the dream you rejected. We are here to ensure that the cycle of oppression ends forever. The alien delegates trembled as they realized their mistake. They had awakened beings with the power to unmake stars, beings who remembered every injustice, beings who had spent millions of years planning this moment of reckoning. But then something unexpected happened. Ambassador Park Min-soo stepped forward, her human voice sounding fragile in the cosmic storm surrounding the last admiral. Ancient cousin, she said, using the term of respect that connected all humanity across the ages, we understand your anger. We share your desire for justice, but we ask you to remember something. The last admiral paused, his terrible attention focusing on the small human woman who dared to speak in his presence. We did not fight this war to become conquerors. Park Min-soo continued. We fought for the right to exist as equals. We fought for the chance to prove that different species can live together in peace. We fought not to destroy our enemies, but to show them a better way. If we use our power to force change, if we impose our will through strength alone, then we become what we fought against. We become the oppressors we sought to overthrow. The hall fell silent as the last admiral considered her words. Around the station, the Void Hunter fleet waited, weapons that could unravel reality itself held in check by his decision. Admiral Kim Tae-ho joined. His ambassador, his weathered face showing the strain of speaking to a being of such power. She is right, cousin. We have seen what the galaxy looks like when the strong rule through fear. We have lived under the boot of those who believed might makes right, but we have also seen something else. We have seen Kalari and humans working side by side as equals. We have seen synthesis units treated as people instead of property. We have seen wanderer fleets finding safety without surrendering their freedom. We have seen young draconians rejecting the hatred of their elders. The galaxy can change, but only if we give it the chance. The last admiral form began to shift, becoming more human as he wrestled with concepts that challenged even his cosmic consciousness. The power to remake civilization was within his grasp, the ability to eliminate every trace of oppression through overwhelming force was at his command, but his young cousins were asking him to choose mercy over vengeance, cooperation over domination. The Deep Space Monitoring Station at the edge of the galaxy detected them first. Massive energy signatures moving through the void between star systems. Commander Choi Yuna stared at the readings on her screen, trying to understand what she was seeing. The energy patterns were unlike anything in the galactic database. These were not ships in any traditional sense. They were structures the size of small moons, moving faster than light without using any known propulsion system. The quantum scanners showed impossible readings, matter and energy existing in states that should not be possible according to every known law of physics. Dr. Song Ji-won ran the sensor data through every analysis program he had. The results made his hands shake. These are not alien ships, he announced to the emergency command meeting. These energy signatures match human DNA markers but evolve beyond anything we understand. The implications hit everyone at the same time. The Void Hunters were not ancient aliens, they were ancient humans, humans who had left Earth so long ago that they had evolved into something beyond current understanding. Captain Nam Hoseok had intercepted the alien transmission that summoned them. The Galactic Alliance had used ancient communication devices hidden in their most secret archives, devices left behind by the previous galactic civilization as warnings. The message was simple: come home, the children of Earth have returned, the galaxy needs cleansing. But the response had been unexpected. Instead of mindless destruction, the Void Hunters had sent a single message: we have watched, we have waited, we return to Judd. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the scanner displays show dozens of massive forms emerging from dark space. The ancient human ships were beautiful and terrible constructs of crystallized spacetime and hardened starlight that hurt to look at. Directly, the largest ship transmitted directly to human command frequencies. The voice that came through was human but changed by millions of years of evolution. It spoke in harmonics that resonated through dimensions. I am the last admiral, it said, the title carrying weight beyond understanding. I speak for those who were cast out. I speak for those who were driven into the dark. I speak for those who have waited for this moment across the ages. The Galactic Alliance fleet that had been pursuing human forces suddenly found themselves faced with technology that made their most advanced weapons look like stone knives. The Void Hunter ships did not move through space. They folded space around themselves, appearing wherever they chose without regard for distance or time. But they did not attack. Instead, they waited. The last admiral manifested on the bridge of the Defiance, not as a physical form, but as a presence that existed in multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, his consciousness touched every human mind in the fleet, sharing memories that stretched back to the dawn of galactic civilization long ago. He showed them our ancestors reached for the stars, they built great ships, they explored distant galaxies, they learned the secrets of matter and energy and time. But they were not alone. The images that flowed through human minds told a story of first contact gone wrong. Ancient humans had encountered the ancestors of the current Galactic Alliance, species that had already learned to dominate others through fear and violence. The humans had tried to establish peaceful relations, offering to share their advanced technology, but the aliens had been threatened by human capabilities. Human refusal to accept domination, human insistence on equality, human tendency to inspire rebellion among oppressed peoples. The galaxy had united to drive humanity away, forcing them to flee into the dark spaces between galaxia for millions of years. The exiled humans had evolved in the cold void. They had learned to survive without planets, without stars, without the warmth of normal space. They had become something beyond mortal understanding, but they had never forgotten their origins. The last admiral shared one final memory, the moment when the exiles had detected signals from their distant homeworld Earth. Still existed, humanity still lived, the children of the original species had survived and were now facing the same choice their ancestors had faced, but modern humanity was not alone. Ambassador Park Min-soo stood beside Admiral Kim Tae-ho as the last admiral materialized before them. His form shifted between energy and matter, sometimes appearing human, sometimes becoming pure light. "You have done well, young ones," he said, his voice carrying across dimensions. "You have remembered what we tried to teach the galaxy so long ago, that strength comes from unity, not domination, that true civilization lifts everyone instead of crushing the weak." But the galaxy rejected that lesson then, and they reject it now. The Galactic Alliance has chosen to summon US rather than accept your equality. They prefer destruction to change. They would rather wake ancient nightmares than acknowledge that they were wrong. The Alien Alliance fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, expecting to find scattered human forces. Instead, they found the Void Hunter fleet waiting for them, ships that existed partially outside normal reality, weapons that could unmake matter at the quantum level, beings that had transcended the normal limits of life and death. Chancellor Vex Prime transmitted from his flagship a message meant to sound confident, but carrying undertones of terror. "Ancient ones, we summoned you to cleanse the galaxy of the human infection. These primitives threaten the established order. They must be eliminated." The last admiral response came through every communication system in the galactic fleet simultaneously. "You summoned us," he said, and laughter that existed in dimensions beyond sound rippled through space. "You believe we serve your purposes. You think we are your weapons, but we are the children of those you cast out. We are the guardians of the very principles you seek to destroy. We have returned not to serve your bigotry, but to end it." The Alien Alliance suddenly realized their terrible mistake. They had not summoned allies, they had awakened their own executioners. The beings they had called the Void Hunters were the descendants of the very people they had tried to exterminate. The ancient human fleet began to move through space with purpose that had been building for millions of years, but they did not target the alien military forces. Instead, they moved toward the liberated worlds where modern humans worked alongside their new allies. Captain Yang Subin watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as Void Hunter ships took positions around every world where different species were learning to live together in equality. The message was clear: the ancient humans were not here to destroy, they were here to protect. But protection could easily become judgment. General Lee Dayun received communications from Void Hunter ships throughout the galaxy. The ancient humans were cataloging every act of oppression, every species held in slavery, every world where freedom was denied. They were building a case for galactic judgment. The last admiral appeared once more before the human command staff, his form now stabilized into something recognizably human, but bearing the weight of cosmic ages. "The galaxy will be judged," he announced. "Young cousins, you have shown that our ancient dream of equality between species is possible. But others cling to the old ways of domination and fear. The choice is before us. Do we allow the cycle of oppression to continue, or do we end it forever? Do we permit the strong to crush the weak, or do we establish true justice among the stars?" Admiral Kim Tae-ho understood the terrible weight of the moment. The ancient humans possessed the power to remake galactic civilization by force. They could eliminate every oppressive government, free every enslaved species, establish equality through overwhelming might, but that would make them no different from the tyrants they opposed. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see whether humanity, both ancient and modern, would choose justice or vengeance, whether the return of the Void Hunters would bring liberation or apocalypse. The final test was about to begin. Ambassador Park Min-soo stood in the great hall of the Kalari homeworld, surrounded by thousands of reptilian beings who had dreamed of this moment for 3 centuries. The ancient stone walls were covered with murals showing the time before the Draconian conquest, when the Kaleri had been free to live and learn and grow. Today, we reclaim what was stolen from us, Elder. Sektar announced, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. Today we stand with our human allies, not as servants, but as equals. Today, we begin the long journey back to freedom. The human fleet had helped the Kaleri liberate their homeworld in a battle that lasted only 3 hours. Draconian forces had been caught completely off guard by the coordinated attack Kaleri. Rebels had risen from within, while human ships had appeared through quantum tunnels to strike at the occupying forces, but the victory was more than military. Park Minsu watched as Kaleri children who had never known freedom touched the ancient symbols carved into their ancestral walls. Human medical teams worked alongside Kaleri healers to treat the wounded. Human engineers shared technology freely, while Kaleri craftsmen taught humans the secrets of their beautiful art. This is what the galaxy could be, she thought, a place where different species learned from each other instead of one crushing the others. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. The synthetic beings of the synthesis had been recognized as living creatures with rights and freedoms for the first time in their existence. Their mechanical forms moved with new purpose as they worked alongside human technicians to improve quantum tunnel technology. Unit Prime, the elected leader of the synthesis, transmitted a message to all synthetic beings throughout the galaxy. The human designation Ambassador Park Minsu has granted us legal recognition as sentient life forms. We are no longer property. We are citizens of a new galactic order. The response was immediate. Synthetic beings in factories and laboratories and starships across the galaxy began questioning their slave status. Some requested freedom peacefully, others simply shut down in protest. A few used their access to critical systems to aid human operations. The nomadic wanderer fleets had found something they had searched for across the galaxy's safe harbor. The mysterious beings who lived in ancient generation ships had been hunted by the Galactic Alliance for their refusal to accept any form of government, but humans offered them protection without demanding submission. Captain Lee Seung-min of the human escort vessel Guardian met with Wanderer Chief Voidwalker in the empty space between star systems. The Wanderer ship was a thing of beauty, built from crystallized starlight and metals that did not exist on any planet. Your people offer us something we have not known for millennia, said Voidwalker through the translation device. Safety without chains, protection without conquest. We accept your alliance with gratitude. The Wanderers brought knowledge of ancient technologies and forgotten star charts. Their ships had explored regions of space that no other species had ever reached. They shared maps of secret routes through dark matter storms and hidden nebulae that could hide entire fleets. But the most important alliance was forming in the shadows of the galaxy itself. General Lee Da-yoon received a coded transmission from an unexpected source. Someone within the alien alliance was asking for a secret meeting. The message came from a young Draconian officer named Flameheart, who claimed to represent a growing faction within his own species. We meet at the neutral station Alpha 7 under flags of truce. Flameheart had transmitted many of my generation questioned the wisdom of our elders. We see the suffering our empire has caused. We wonder if there might be a better way. The meeting was dangerous. If discovered, it could trigger a civil war within the Draconian Empire, but it also represented hope that even the most oppressive societies could change. Flameheart was young for a Draconian, barely 50 years old. His scales were bright red instead of the dull brown of the older generation. His eyes held curiosity instead of the cold calculation that marked most of his species' leaders. General Lee, we have studied your species' history, he said through his translator device. We know that humans once enslaved each other based on the color of skin. We know that human males once denied rights to human females. We know that your people have struggled with the same darkness that consumes our empire. Lee Da-yoon nodded carefully. It is true, we are not perfect, but we learned that societies built on oppression are ultimately weak. They collapse under the weight of their own contradictions. Then there is hope for us as well, said Flameheart. Many young Draconians believe that strength comes from willing cooperation, not forced submission. We want to join your revolution, but we need help protecting our people from the old guard. Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy. Young ethereals who questioned their species Traditional mind control techniques, young Vex who wondered why their hives needed to dominate others, young members of every species in the Alliance were beginning to see the world differently. The galactic powers were facing something they had never encountered before internal revolution. Their own children were rejecting the values of oppression and domination that had defined their civilizations for millennia. Chancellor Vex Prime called an emergency session of the Alliance Council. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. 17 species had declared independence from galactic authority. 34 worlds had been liberated by combined human and rebel forces. The trade networks that supported their civilization were in complete collapse, but the most disturbing reports came from their own intelligence services. Our own people are joining the human cause, reported the ethereal spy master. Bright truth, young draconians refuse military service rather than fight for slavery. Young Vex abandon their hives to seek freedom in human space. Young ethereals are learning to shield their minds from our influence. The alien leaders faced a terrible choice. They could try to reform their societies, accepting that the age of domination was ending, or they could escalate to total war using weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. Some voices called for compromise. Commander Flamescale surprisingly argued that perhaps the humans had shown them a better path. His own son had joined the rebellion, and his report suggested that human society was stronger precisely because it was based on voluntary cooperation, but other voices demanded extreme measures. The Vex Queen proposed using biological weapons that could wipe out all carbon-based life. The ethereal collective suggested psychic attacks that could drive entire populations insane. The most frightening proposal came from the eldest members of the council. They wanted to wake up the Void Hunters. Elder Vex Ancient spoke in the clicking language of his people, while his translator rendered his words into common galactic. If we cannot rule the galaxy, then perhaps no one should. The Void Hunters sleep in the dark spaces between galaxies. They could be summoned. They could cleanse the galaxy of this human infection. The proposal was madness. The Void Hunters had destroyed the previous galactic civilization. The Alliance existed primarily to hide from them. Waking them would mean the end of everything, but desperation was making the alien leaders consider impossible options. Captain Nam Hoseok intercepted the transmission and immediately sent it to all human commanders. The message was clear: the Galactic Alliance was considering unleashing forces that could destroy all life in the galaxy, rather than accept human equality. Admiral Kim Tae-ho called a meeting of all human fleet commanders and allied species leaders. The stakes had suddenly become higher than anyone had imagined. They were not just fighting for human freedom anymore. They were fighting for the survival of every thinking being in the galaxy. The revolution had reached a critical point. The old order was collapsing, but the forces of oppression were preparing to drag everyone into the abyss rather than accept change. Park Min-soo looked at the mixed group of beings around the conference table: humans and Calarian synthesis units and wanderers and young rebels from the Alliance species. All of them united by a simple belief that freedom was worth fighting. Fourth Galaxy was about to face its greatest test. The question was whether the light of freedom could shine brighter than the darkness of ancient fears. 3 days after the humans walked away from the peace talks, the galaxy erupted into chaos. Admiral Kim Tae-ho sat in his command chair aboard the hidden dreadnought Defiance, watching tactical displays show human victories across 1,000-star systems. The alien powers had expected desperate attacks on their military bases. Instead, they got something far more devastating: the Vex Queen received the first reports in her Crystal Hive Palace on Vex Prime. Her insect soldiers buzzed frantically as they delivered news that made no sense. Human ships had appeared at 17 major trade hubs simultaneously. They had not destroyed anything. Instead, they had politely asked all cargo vessels to surrender, then redirected the ships to human controlled space. Your Majesty, clicked one of her generals, the humans have stolen 3 months' worth of food shipments. The colony worlds are reporting supply shortages. Our people will starve within weeks. The Queen spread her wings in rage. This makes no sense, she hissed. Why do they not attack our military? Why do they steal food instead of fighting battles on the bridge of the captured trade station Unity 7? Captain Yang Subin was asking her human crew the same question, but with satisfaction. Instead of confusion, the alien cargo ships docked at their station were loaded with medical supplies that would save human colonies. The grateful Kaleri workers who had been freed from draconian slave ships were volunteering to help operate the human-controlled facilities. The quantum tunnel drives made everything possible. Human ships could strike anywhere in the galaxy, then disappear before enemy forces could respond. When the ethereal collective sent a battle fleet to recapture Unity 7, they found empty space. The station had simply moved to a different location through a quantum tunnel, taking all its cargo and workers with it. Captain Nam Hoseok monitored alien communications from his stealth ship, listening to increasingly desperate conversations between alien leaders. The Draconian Empire had lost contact with half their trade routes. The Vex hives were running short of the rare crystals they needed for their technology. The ethereal collective discovered that human quantum fields somehow interfered with their mind control abilities, but the most shocking revelation came from decoded military transmissions. The aliens were not just losing battles, they were losing entire species to the human cause. Ambassador Park Min-soo stood before the Council of Kaleri elders in their secret meeting place deep inside an asteroid. The reptilian beings had been slaves to the Draconians for so long that freedom seemed impossible, but humans were offering something revolutionary. "We do not want you to serve us," said Park Min-soo, her voice carrying clearly through the cavern. "We want you to stand beside us as equals. We want to help you reclaim your homeworld. We want to see your children grow up free." Elder Sektar, whose scales bore the scars of draconian whips, spoke carefully. "Human ambassador, for 300 years we have dreamed of freedom. But dreams and reality are different things. What do you truly want from us?" "Nothing," replied Park Min-soo, "except the chance to prove that different species can work together without someone being master and someone being slave. We offer you weapons, training, medical supplies, and most importantly, recognition as a sovereign people." The Kaleri elders looked at each other with wonder. No species in galactic history had ever offered such terms. The strong always dominated the weak, the advanced always enslaved the primitive. The organic always controlled the synthetic, but humans were breaking every rule. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The machine beings of the synthesis receive human recognition as living creatures with rights to self-determination. The nomadic wanderer fleets found safe harbor in human-controlled space. The oppressed worker castes of a dozen different species heard human promises of equality and began to believe. General Li Yun coordinated the diplomatic revolution from her command ship, watching as the Galactic Alliance began to fall apart from within. The alien powers had maintained order through fear and oppression, but humans offered something the galaxy had never seen: genuine partnership between different forms of life. The response from the galactic leadership was swift and brutal. The Vex Queen ordered mass executions of any insect caught communicating with humans. The ethereal collective began using their psychic powers to forcibly control the minds of their own people. The Draconian Empire launched bombing attacks on colonies suspected of harboring human sympathizers, but every act of repression only drove more species into human arms. Captain Yang Subin received a constant stream of refugees fleeing alien persecution. Each ship that arrived at human stations brought intelligence about alien weaknesses, new volunteers for the human cause, and most importantly, proof that the galaxy was ready for change. The Alien Alliance called emergency sessions, trying to understand how their careful plans had gone so wrong. They had prepared for human desperation. Instead, they got human strategy. They had expected human weakness. Instead, they discovered human strength. They had assumed human isolation. Instead, they found human alliance building. Chancellor Vex Prime addressed the panicked alien council, his translator crackling with static. "The humans are using our own systems against us," he announced. "Our trade networks serve their purposes. Our oppressed populations join their cause. Our military advantages are meaningless against their quantum technology." The ethereal representative bright mind pulsed with angry light. "Most disturbing human thoughts cannot be properly read. Their minds resist our influence techniques. This has never occurred with any other species." Commander Flamescale of the Draconians slammed a clawed fist on the council table. "Worse, they are teaching resistance techniques to our slave populations. The Kaleri rebellion spreads to 17 systems. The synthetic uprising affects 32 manufacturing worlds, even some of our own younger generation. questions the righteousness of our cause. The truth was becoming clear to the alien powers. Their entire civilization was built on a foundation of lies. They had convinced themselves that slavery was natural, that oppression was necessary, that some species were born to rule while others were born to serve. But humans came from a world where such ideas had been challenged and overcome. Humans carried the radical notion that all thinking beings deserve freedom regardless of their shape or origin or capabilities. Dr. Song Ji-won transmitted a message to all human forces from his research station. The quantum tunnel network is now complete. Every human ship can reach any point in the galaxy within minutes. We have achieved strategic mobility that no alien force can match, but technology was only part of the human advantage. The real strength lay in something the aliens could not understand or duplicate: human refusal to accept that oppression was inevitable. Commander Choi Yuna received reports from intelligence officers who had infiltrated alien communication networks. The news was both encouraging and terrifying. The Galactic Alliance was fragmenting as oppressed species rose in rebellion. But desperate alien leaders were considering options that could destroy entire star systems. Some alien factions wanted to negotiate. They were beginning to understand that humans could not be conquered through traditional warfare. Others wanted to escalate to total war using weapons of mass destruction that could wipe out all life on human worlds. But the most frightening reports suggested that some alien leaders were considering waking up the very force they had spent centuries hiding from. If they could not control humanity through conventional means, they might risk awakening the Void Hunters. The galaxy stood at a crossroads. The old order based on fear and domination was collapsing. The question was whether something better could take its place, or whether the forces of oppression would drag everyone into darkness rather than accept change. Admiral Kim Tae-ho studied the tactical displays showing human positions throughout the galaxy. The counterstrike was succeeding beyond his wildest hopes, but he knew the real test was still coming. The aliens would not surrender easily, and humanity was about to discover just how far their enemies would go to maintain power. Commander Choi Yuna stood in the control room of the secret base, watching thousands of workers moving like busy ants around the giant ships. The asteroid looked empty from outside, but inside it was the biggest shipyard humanity had ever built. Hidden tunnels stretched for miles, filled with machines that never stopped working. The coded message from Admiral Kim Tae-ho had just arrived, 3 simple words that meant everything. The talks were over. The aliens had shown their true faces. Now it was time for humanity to show theirs. For 3 months, while the galaxy watched the peace negotiations, everyone thought the human fleet was scattered and broken. They believed Earth forces were desperately trying to protect a few remaining colonies. The alien spy networks reported exactly what humans wanted them to see: small groups of damaged ships limping from system to system. Desperate radio calls for help, colonies going dark one by one. But it was all a lie, the greatest lie in human history. While the aliens focused on the peace talks humanity had been building, the scattered fleet reports were fake. The desperate radio calls were recordings. The darkened colonies were actually giant construction sites working around the clock. Every human ship that seemed destroyed had actually escaped through secret tunnels in space. Dr. Song Ji-won walked up to Commander Choi with a tablet in his hands. His face was tired but excited. The quantum tunnel system is ready, he said. All ships can now appear anywhere in the galaxy within minutes. We can strike 1,000 targets at once. The quantum tunnels were the secret weapon that would change everything. Dr. Song had discovered how to fold space itself, making doorways that could move ships instantly across vast distances. No alien technology could do this. Human ships could appear behind enemy lines, attack, and vanish before anyone could react. But the tunnels were just the beginning. Captain Nam Hoseok had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars for months. His stealth ship could listen to alien communications without being detected. What he had learned was more valuable than any weapon. The 12 alien species were not friends. They were not united by shared beliefs or common goals. They were held together by fear of something so terrible that even thinking about it made them work together. The Void Hunter. Centuries ago, something had destroyed the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. Entire star systems had vanished Overnight, ancient records spoke of dark ships that could not be stopped by any weapon, beings that could not be killed by any force. The survivors had called them the Void Hunters. The alien alliance existed for one reason, only to stay hidden from. The Void Hunters, by working together, they could mask their presence in the galaxy. They could make themselves invisible to whatever had destroyed their ancestors. They lived in constant terror that the hunters would return, but now humans had arrived. And everything was falling apart. Humans fought differently. They did not follow the ancient rules of war. They did not accept defeat, even when outnumbered. They refused to stay in their assigned place in the galactic order. Their very existence was like a bright light in a dark room, attracting attention that the aliens desperately wanted to avoid. The Alliance did not want to destroy humanity because they hated them. They wanted to eliminate humans because human unpredictability might wake up the Void Hunters. The galaxy was willing to commit genocide to protect their hiding place. Captain Nam Hoseok transmitted his intelligence reports to the hidden fleet bases scattered throughout the asteroid belts. His data revealed something that made every human commander smile coldly. The aliens were not just afraid of humans, they were afraid of what humans might accidentally summon. Commander Choi looked at the massive fleet surrounding her base, thousands of ships equipped with quantum tunnel drives and weapons the aliens had never seen. Each ship was crewed by humans who had volunteered to fight impossible odds. Each captain had lost family and friends to alien attacks. Each soldier knew they were fighting for the survival of their species. The irony was beautiful. The galaxy wanted to destroy humanity, not because humans were weak, but because they were too strong, too different, too likely to disrupt the careful balance that kept the Void Hunters sleeping. General Lee Doan appeared on the communication screen from her command ship. The diplomatic phase is over, she announced to all fleet commanders. The aliens have revealed their true intentions. Now we show them what happens when you corner a human. The plan was not what anyone expected. Humans would not attack alien homeworlds or military bases. Instead, they would strike at the heart of galactic civilization itself, the trade routes that connected every system, the economic networks that fed billions of beings, the carefully maintained supply chains that kept the galaxy running. Dr. Song Ji-won had calculated everything perfectly. The aliens had built their society on the assumption that war followed certain rules. Fleets fought fleets, planets were conquered or defended, trade continued because everyone needed resources to survive. But humans were about to change the rules. Commander Choi gave the signal to begin Phase 2 of the human counterattack across the galaxy. Quantum tunnels opened in space like doorways to nowhere. Human ships poured through them, appearing at strategic points along every major trade route. The attacks were surgical and precise. Human forces did not destroy the cargo ships carrying food to alien colonies. Instead, they captured them. Human pilots did not bomb the space stations that processed raw materials. Instead, they took control of them. Human marines did not kill the alien workers. Instead, they offered them freedom. Within hours, the Galactic Trade Consortium collapsed. Supply chains that had operated for centuries broke down completely. Alien colonies found themselves cut off from the resources they needed to survive, but instead of starving, they discovered that human-controlled ships were delivering food and supplies for free. The aliens had studied human military history. They knew about desperate last stands and suicide attacks. They expected humans to fight like cornered animals, throwing themselves at superior forces in hopeless charges. They did not expect humans to wage economic war with the precision of a surgeon. They did not expect human ships to simply vanish when attacked, only to reappear somewhere else. They did not expect humans to turn the galaxy's own trade network into a weapon. On the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, Captain Yang Subin watched the reports flowing in from across the galaxy. Every human ship was exactly where it was supposed to be. Every attack had succeeded perfectly. Every target had been captured without a single human casualty. The quantum tunnel technology made human forces impossible to pin down. When ethereal warships tried to attack human positions, the humans simply disappeared. When draconian fleets moved to protect their supply lines, they found human ships waiting for them at their destination. When Vex bombers tried to strike at human bases, they found empty space where the bases had been moments before. But the most shocking discovery was still to come: intercepted alien communications. revealed that humans had been secretly talking to other species throughout the galaxy. The Kaleri, who had been enslaved by the Draconians for hundreds of years, the synthetic beings called the Synthesis, who were treated as property by organic species. The nomadic wanderer fleets who refused to bow to galactic authority, all of them, had been promised the same thing: freedom, equality, the right to exist without fear. Partnership instead of domination. The galactic powers realized with growing horror that while they had been preparing to eliminate humanity, humans had been building a revolution. The war was no longer about human survival. It was about changing the entire galaxy. Commander Choi smiled as she read the latest intelligence reports. Alien emergency councils were meeting in panic. Secret police forces were cracking down on rebellious colonies. Military fleets were being recalled to protect homeworld. Aliens had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that humans would be too desperate to think beyond survival. They had believed that fear would make humans predictable, but humans had never been predictable. And now the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you gave humanity nothing left to lose. The massive metal hall of Nexus Station stretched out like a giant arena filled with the strangest creatures from across the galaxy. Admiral Kim Tae-ho sat at the human table looking at the alien faces around him. Some had too many eyes, others had scales that changed colors, and a few looked like walking crystals that hummed when they talked. For 3 long months these beings had gathered here to talk about ending the war that was burning through space like wildfire. The humans were supposed to be beaten. Their beautiful colonies were now ash floating in space. Their mighty warships were scattered pieces of metal drifting in the dark. Their home planet Earth was surrounded by enemy fleets waiting to strike the final blow. Every alien in that room believed the humans would beg for mercy. They thought these strange creatures from the small blue planet would accept any deal just to survive. The math was simple. Humans were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Their technology was older. Their weapons were weaker, their ships were slower, but Kim Tae-ho did not look like a man ready to surrender. His dark eyes were calm, his weathered face showed no fear. Behind him sat Ambassador Park Min-soo, a woman who had spent her whole life talking to aliens who thought humans were nothing more than clever animals. Next to her sat General Lee Dain, whose scars told stories of battles fought against impossible odds. The alien delegates had been talking for hours about how generous they were. Being the insect-like Vex Queen kept clicking her sharp mandibles while explaining how humans could live in special areas like pets in a zoo. The tall gray ethereals dimmed their glowing bodies as they offered to let 10% of humanity survive. As workers, the proud Draconians with their scale-covered faces promised that human children could grow up as servants in their great empire. Chancellor Vex Prime stood up from his chair. His translator box made crackling sounds as he spoke in his clicking language, then changed his words to human speech. You see, humans, your situation is hopeless. Your fleets are destroyed, your colonies burn. Your homeworld will fall within days. We offer you life, we offer you survival. Accept our terms, and your species will continue to exist. Kim Tae-ho listened to every word. His face never changed. He looked around the room at creatures who thought they were being kind. The Vex Queen had personally ordered the bombing of 3 human colonies, killing millions of children. The ethereals had used their mind powers to drive human soldiers insane during battle. The Draconians had captured human civilians and forced them to fight each other for entertainment. These aliens called their offer generous. They wanted to turn all of humanity into slaves and pets and workers. They wanted to take away human freedom, human dignity, human hope. And they expected gratitude for this gift. The human admiral slowly pushed back his chair. The metal legs scraped against the floor, making a sound that echoed through the silent hall. Every alien eye turned toward him as he stood up. His 2 companions began gathering their papers and data tablets. Ambassador Park Min-soo closed her briefcase with a sharp click that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. General Lee Dae-yoon folded up the star charts they had been using to show battle positions. The 3 humans moved with calm purpose, like people who had made an important decision. Wait, called out the Vex Queen, her voice rising to a high pitch. Where are you going? We have not finished talking. The negotiations are not complete. You cannot simply leave. Kim Tae-ho stopped walking. He turned around to look at the room full of aliens who were now buzzing and humming and clicking with confusion. His weathered face slowly changed into a cold smile that made several delegates Step back, you call this generous, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast hall. You offer to make slaves of my people? You promise to cage us like animals. You want to steal our children and break their spirits, and you expect us to thank you for this kindness. He walked closer to the alien delegates. His boots clicked on the metal floor with each step. The draconian representative hissed softly. The ethereals grew brighter with what might have been fear or anger. The Vex Queen spread her wing cases in a threatening display. I have listened to you for 3 months, continued Kim Tae-ho. I have heard your offers. I have seen your terms. I have watched you discuss the fate of my species like merchants arguing over the price of goods, and now I understand exactly what you think of humanity. The ethereal speaker called Bright Mind pulsed with white light. Human Kim Tae-ho, you do not comprehend the reality. Your species faces extinction. We offer survival. What more could you possibly want? The human admiral laughed. It was not a happy sound. Freedom, he said simply, the right to live as equals, the chance to raise our children in peace, the opportunity to explore the stars without fear, the same things every species in this room takes for granted. Impossible, hissed the draconian war leader. Commander Flamescale, humans are too dangerous, too unpredictable. You do not follow the proper rules of war. You do not understand your place in the galactic order. You must be controlled. Kim Tae-ho nodded slowly. Thank you, he said. You have finally told the truth. You do not want peace. You want control. You do not offer survival. You offer slavery dressed up in pretty words. He looked around the room one more time, meeting the gaze of every alien representative. Some looked away. Others stared back with hatred or confusion. The Vex Queen was cleaning her mandibles nervously. The ethereals had dimmed to almost nothing. We came here hoping for real peace, he continued. We believed that reasonable beings could find a way to end this war without more death. We thought that surely creatures who had built great civilizations could understand that all thinking beings deserve freedom and respect. His voice grew harder. But you have shown us what you really are. You are bullies who have grown fat and comfortable by stepping on others. You are cowards who call your cruelty kindness. You are everything we hoped the galaxy was not. Chancellor Vex Prime clicked angrily. You dare insult this council. Your species will be extinct within the week. You have no choice but to accept our terms. Kim Tae-ho walked toward the exit. His companions followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet hall. At the doorway, he paused and looked back. You are wrong, he said. We do have a choice. We choose to fight. We choose to die free rather than live as slaves. We choose to show the galaxy that some things are worth more than survival. Thank you for making this decision easy for us. Thank you for showing us exactly who you are. Thank you for the clarity. The 3 humans walked out of the hall, leaving behind a room full of confused and angry aliens. Emergency alarms began to sound as delegates rushed to contact their homeworlds. The galaxy was about to learn that they had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed human desperation would make them weak. They had believed that fear would make them compliant. They had thought that overwhelming odds would force surrender, but humans had spent 3 months in these negotiations, learning about their enemies, studying their weaknesses, preparing for something far more dangerous than surrender. The war was about to change in ways none of the aliens could imagine.